Hey, this is Ordo Militaris TV. Uh, First thing off, this movie, The Day of the Siege, is a must-watch movie for all Catholics. We need this film today to show us what true Catholics are. It is hard to find the Catholics imaged here of the Polish winged hussars. King Jan Sobieski III had such a trust in the Mother of God that she would protect Poland from the Ottoman Islamic terrorists of their day, that he pulled out their entire army from Poland, leaving none behind, to come to the aid of Vienna. And they go to the Holy League meeting. Sobieski said, "I am deposed to not spend one moment further unless you give me charge of this entire military." So the princes of Bavaria, Saxony, and Italy, and so forth were mumbling, grumbling, and laughing at him, calling him a peasant. But if they did their actual research on him, if they could have done research and did a folder on him, even though they were short of men by hundreds of thousands, they still defeated the Islamic terrorists of their day. And just seeing how the rich monarchs of Saxony and Bavaria and Austria reacted to the Polish king. Shows you what type of Catholics we need to join Ordo Militaris. We don't need those Catholics who laughed at the Polish king or mumbled and grumbled about him. The Polish king had enough faith and trust to pull out the entire army of Poland, that our Blessed Mother would protect Poland while he comes to the aid of Vienna, Austria. Even though Marco, they the Aviano, is played by a Jewish actor. You couldn't really tell he's Jewish in this film. I mean, the man who plays Aviano does it remarkably well. The two actual sermons he gave, the first was in his own at the friary in Aviano. He's also a miracle worker. The people were praying to him and not to God. Excuse me. They're treating his very touch, his very habit as something of superstition. And he rightly called him out to it. You idolaters, you superstitious fools. What happens is because of God, not because of me, he told him. He tells them about what God has revealed of the coming danger. About the 2 sieges coming if the Catholics didn't stop the siege at Vienna. That it would be coming into Italy to sack Rome. He said, we must pray to God that our hearts are filled with faith. That we become the soldiers of Christ that we are. We'll be able to defend our faith. To defend our families. To defend our heritage and our way of life. Because there is an oncoming danger where you will have to defend your homes, your wives, your family, your faith. I have never heard that preached. I have never heard those words except by us at Ordo Militaris. Now I'm going to see if I can place the first sermon here and the second one over here, because they're both on YouTube. The first one he preaches in his friary, Aviano, and the second one is before the charge of the Polish cavalry. Those 2 sermons, plus the entire movie, moved me to put this. The first part I wrote, do you want to know what we at Ordo Militaris Catholicus is fighting for, and why we exist today? It is a sermon of Blessed Marco di Aviano, preached at the friary before he went to meet the emperor in Vienna. That we must pray to God, that we will become the soldiers of Christ that we are, and fight to defend our faith, to defend our brethren from the slaughter of Islam. Even the Grand Vizier, or the great Muslim general, said this will not be the last time Islam tries to conquer the West. How true and prophetic are those words? Because Islam has been invited in by the enemies of Christ and of Europe. You cannot have Europe without Christ. And the European Union knows this, and so does Islam. Why do you think they want to erase our heritage, our Catholic traditions, from all of Europe? Because they hate Christ, and so they bring in the enemies of Christ, who want to conquer the world, but most of all of us. Then I posted the 2 videos of the sermons. This one has the sound and the words. Let me read it to you. My brothers, soon you will have to fight. You will have to kill other human beings. When that moment comes, when you must kill or be killed, remember my words. You are fighting not only to defend Vienna, but also to defend your faith and your traditions. You're defending your wives and your children, your sisters, your brothers, your mothers and fathers. Because if Vienna falls, Rome will fall. And if Rome falls, Holy Mother Church will fall. Defend your faith, so that your children may be free to worship God, free to love Christ, free because you have fought on this day. Repeat after me. I believe. I believe with all my heart. And they repeat it. And that's the end of the second sermon. That is Marco di Aviano speaking to the Polish winged hussars and the Austrian army. And finally I write, if you are not moved to join Ordo Militaris after having these 2 sermons touch your very soul, then you're not true Catholics. Because as true Catholics do not accommodate or compromise with heretics and killers of souls, we fight them with truth. If we must fight with weapons, then we will follow in these holy examples. We follow the call of Blessed Marco, Blessed Urban II, and other blessed popes who called for the defense of Christians. Are we willing to let Christendom fall and crumble into dust, while the enemies of Christ continue to destroy Europe? When will Christian leaders stand up to them and fight back? When will Catholics act and believe as Catholics once again? Our brethren in Iraq and Syria fear for something worse than ISIS or Daesh. That is why they are asking for armed defense and security. So I ask you, in the name of God, join us at Ordo Militaris Catholicus. And today, horrible news out of Indonesia. It looks like Indonesia will become the new caliphate for the Islamic State. Because 63 jihadi terror groups have pledged allegiance to the Islamic State's caliph. This is from Robert Spencer at Jihad Watch. Even though the Islamic State has lost most of its territory in Iraq and Syria, and with the appearance of enjoying the favor of Allah upon its claim to be the caliphate, that claim still has a potent appeal for jihad groups worldwide. In Sunni Islamic law, only the caliph is authorized to declare offensive jihad. In the absence of a caliph, jihad can only be defensive, although that can be and has been interpreted elastically enough to include 9/11. In his book, Robert Spencer's book, The History of Jihad from Muhammad to ISIS, he details how the great Islamic caliphates of the past, Umayyads, Abbasids, Ottomans, and others, pursued jihad relentlessly against infidel states, meaning us, people with a cross or crusaders. Jihadists still think about those glory days, and so should we, as Catholics, should think, remember, memorialize those glory days. The days of the Holy Crusades, not the terrible deeds committed by a certain group that targeted innocent people, but the actual crusades themselves where the Christians were protected, defended, like the battles at Antioch where the Holy Lance was found. That is something to commemorate, to remember. Or the angels showing the crusaders the way to Jerusalem. Or the other vision or apparition showing the crusaders how to get into Jerusalem without losing their men, because they lost a lot of equipment on the way. To get in to rescue the holy places. Or we remember the real St. Francis preaching the Crusades. People don't want to hear that. St. Francis preached the Crusades. And that peace song of his is not his. Make me an instrument of your peace. That is not his song. He did not write it. Some other person wrote it by putting some of his words together. But St. Francis did not write that song. He was not a hippie. He was not peace and love, man. He preached the crusade He supported the crusade. Marco di Aviano was a Franciscan. So Saint Joseph Cupertino. They did what? They preached crusades. Who helped found the Knights Templar? Saint Bernard of Clairvaux. He's also a doctor of the church. So you're thinking religious can't do what we're doing? That Catholics can't do what we're doing? Have you not looked at Catholic history? There is such a thing as Catholic military history. Let's go back to the article. And so now a new caliphate is growing in Indonesia. Robert Spencer continues. Fears an Islamic State stronghold is emerging in Indonesia as 63 terror groups in the region pledge allegiance to the ISIS leader, by Lauren Ferry of Daily Mail Australia yesterday, October 11th, 2018. Robert Spencer continues. Indonesian Defense Minister has warned lives could be lost unless action is not taken. The Defense Minister is calling for the sharing of intelligence to be improved in order to protect the lives of civilians, the Australian reported. Also, the Defense Minister has scheduled a meeting with the Australian Defense Minister, Christopher Pyne, in Jakarta on Thursday. U.S. counter-terror operations foil plots to fly drones filled with explosives into police headquarters in Kuala Lumpur and carry out suicide attacks in the state palace in Jakarta and fire a rocket at a Marina Bay Sands in Singapore. So those things by the U.S. counter-terror operations foiled those things. Also, the Indonesian Defense Minister said 63 groups in Southeast Asia pledge allegiance to ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Countries in Southeast Asia responded last year after ISIS-inspired terrorist groups attacked the Philippines city of Marawi, leaving more than 1,000 innocent people dead. And they're still having trouble down there in that Philippines town. From what all I can figure out, the ISIS guys are still down there. And we had this from yesterday. In Greece, a cross destroyed after leftist groups complained that it offended Muslim migrants. Some local groups opposed the installation of the cross, at the time claiming it was offensive to the migrants who are not Christian. And now the cross has been destroyed just so that everyone knows which group comes first now. Locals reacted with anger after a holy cross was destroyed by unknown vandals earlier in the week on the Greek island of Levos. The symbol of orthodoxy was erected by a religious group in September at the rocky shore of Peli, beneath the emblematic castle of Levos's capital, Mytilene. Some local groups opposed the installation of the cross at the time, claiming it was offensive to migrants who are not Christians. An NGO called Movement to Coexistence Communications in the Aegean, also another illegal NGO, I reckon. You are working with the same NGO in Europe, moving the Islamic invaders inward, who the Italian government is trying to shut down, keep them from entering the harbor at Italy. Said that it was inappropriate to turn a Christian symbol to a tool of aspiring crusaders. It also argued that the cross was placed there to prevent migrants from swimming. A few days later, the cross was found destroyed. Why did the symbol of orthodoxy bother them? I am sorry, as a Greek, said a local resident. Another said that the culprits broke the cross with hatred. The cross was made of cement. Somebody went over there with a sledgehammer and broke it. That was hatred. So the faith in Greece is also under attack. Got the leftists in government, got the leftist NGOs attacking the faith by destroying a Christian marker. So remember, I'm going to be placing the two sermons from the movie here and here on each side of the screen, hopefully, if I can figure out how to do that in the editing process. Well, that's the news of the day, and I will be on Twitter. I managed a Chicago account until we get a member from Chicago to take up the slack from there. And I'm on Gab at Ordo Militaris Radio. And my Twitter is still suspended for preaching the truth about McCarrick. Another Twitter follower, Protect the Faith, was also suspended for the same thing, defending the faith against the homosexual predators in the church. So once that happened, we knew it was intentional. So Ordo Militaris Kansas is down on Twitter, but we are up on Gab. So yeah, that's the news of the day. Please like this video, share it, subscribe. Days folk.